All right, boys and girls, in this video, we are going to go over this study guide for your Unit 5 test. So if you have not printed this study guide, it is on Schoology. You will need to pause the video and go ahead and do that now. All right, so again, Unit 5, we really learned a lot about matter and its different properties. And we also learned a little bit about states of matter, and then we went into magnetism. So all properties and states of matter in this unit. The first thing that we want to go back and review are just those properties of matter. How do scientists classify matter? They classify it based on its properties, such as color, texture, hardness, volume, and mass. We're pretty familiar with color, so we're not going to really record anything there. But when we talk about the word texture, when we're describing the texture of an object, just as a reminder, we're referring to words such as rough, smooth. We might even use the word like grainy, which all describe how an object feels. The next one that you see here, hardness. We have two examples here, a marble, example 1, and a pillow, example 2. So hardness refers to how hard or soft an object is. Sometimes I think students are a little bit confused and they think of texture and they think of the word soft, but that's actually describing the matter's hardness. The next property of matter that we want to go back and revisit is volume. So I know that this is a very small space here on this sheet, but this is really important, boys and girls. We know that we spent time talking about objects that were placed in a graduated cylinder to determine the volume. And we find first the amount of liquid that's in the graduated cylinder, add our object, and figure out how much that amount increased. And that helps us find the volume of an irregular shape. Maybe it's like a sphere. I know that when we looked at it, they were trying to find the volume of an orange. Now, there's a rule that scientists can use to find the volume of these objects right here. They have straight edges and all straight sides, and they can multiply the length times the width, and that kind of sounds like our area formula that we use in math, multiplied by the height, how tall this object is. Scientists use that when they're trying to find the volume of a cube or a rectangular prism. Just going to squeeze that in there. The next thing that we talked about was mass, and we learned that scientists use a tool called a pan balance to find the mass of an object. But what is mass? Well, it's the amount of matter in an object. So when Mrs. Body decided to smash a dinner plate on her dining room table, what she was demonstrating, right, was the conservation of mass. And we know that when we're talking about the conservation of mass, really what we're saying is that no matter how many pieces something is broken into, the blank stays the same. The mass stays the same. Remember, we found the mass of the dinner plate whole, and then after it shattered those pieces, we found it again, and the mass was still the exact same. They give you like a little diagram or description or illustration, I guess, here. 5 grams, and then they're broken apart into separate pieces, but it still has a mass of 5 grams. Okay. And again, you can pause this video at any time, or you can go back and rewatch it if you'd like to. Now let's move down here. We know that we learned a little bit about magnetism, so we're going to move on to magnets. What are the ends of a magnet called? We're referring to these parts right here. Right, those are called poles. We know that we have north and south poles. Now, the blank the objects, the blank the magnet attraction. Well, if you have a magnet closer to objects, then the magnetic attraction is going to be stronger. So the closer the objects, the stronger the magnet attraction. Let's look at this last statement down here. Blank blank can cause objects to move towards each other. Well, if you have objects such as iron, steel, or paper clips, what's going to cause them to move closer towards each other? Right, we call that magnetic attraction. And the last thing that we want to go back and revisit are the states of matter. We know that when we're talking about states of matter, we're referring to solid, liquid, or gas. What we need to know about these states of matter is that a solid has a definite shape, right? We often think of like an ice cube. However, liquid takes the shape of its blank container. When we're referring to gas, right here we see like a pot on a stove with that vapor rising. We know that gas has no definite shape. And the last thing that we've included on your study guide is just a very simplified version of those changes in the states of matter. For example, if we have a solid, such as ice, and it turns to liquid, such as water, that happens through a process called melting. We also know that liquid can freeze and become a solid, and that process is called freezing. When liquid turns to gas, we're referring to evaporation. And when gas turns to liquid, we're referring to condensation. So just a couple things to add there. Okay. If you could think of anything else that you would like to add to your study guide, feel free. You can go back and watch this video again if you would like, but tomorrow you will be completing your Unit 5 test. Let me know if you have any questions before then.